Hi, good evening, everybody. It's Steve with Real Progressives. I hope you all enjoyed Joy, who just was doing an incredible interview. I want to ask you all something. I want you to think about what I'm about to say, and I want you to think about it real hard. If you have family or friends with a child with disabilities, or perhaps you have a child or a friend's child who has autism, I want you to take a second and I want you to think about what it is that they're going through. Not just the kid, but the parents and those who have to interact. I want you to consider for a minute what it takes to be able to help a child like that be able to break free from the kind of like the trap that they're within their mind. I want you to think about the amount of actual support that it takes for a family with a child with autism to help that child learn to eat, to help that child learn to focus, to help that child interact with other people. I want you to consider for a minute how much effort it takes therapists in collaboration with parents and the community that has autistic children working together to try to find a way to bring normalcy to those kids so that they can be on their own and that they can lead a life with some independence and dignity. From my own personal experience with this, I want you to know my child has several therapists, occupational therapists. We go to a feeding clinic where they try to teach him motor skills with his tongue so that he can move the food to the side of his mouth where he can chew, so he doesn't choke, so he can swallow. We go to play therapy where occupational therapists try to teach them how to interact with other children and learn how to share and learn how to be okay with other people invading their space. We also have people giving him speech therapy. Going into his third year of life, he is not able to say any words. But this little boy, he loves me beyond anything I've ever experienced in my life. There's nothing that comes close. Nothing that comes close to the love of my son. So it's not a love thing that's causing him to not be able to get through this. It's a resource thing. We have a counselor comes out for 1 hour to teach him how to eat. And then he's gone, she's gone, until the next week. And then parents, who most likely both work and can't be home raising the child, have to send that kid to daycare. There aren't daycares out there, or if there are, they're very few, that are truly suited to handle autistic children. So you've got people doing the best they can, loving him for sure, but they're not trained to handle autistic kids and to handle the occupational therapy they must go through. And I can tell you right now, each and every day, I've got to brush my son with this special brush all over his arms, all over his chest, his face, his legs, to give him textures, to give him a different feeling, to make him feel secure. Because he has trouble with that. And, you know, you watch him and he doesn't know you're watching him. And he walks around the corner of the room, the perimeter of the room, while all the other kids are playing together and laughing and stuff. He is pacing the corner of the room. Or he'll stand there looking one way and start spinning. Or he'll sit there and do stuff like this with his fingers in front of his eyes. My son is not unique. In fact, my son is higher functioning than many kids with autism. It's my hope that as socialized as he is, and as early as we've tried to catch this, that he'll be able to hopefully pull through and be able to be, you know, hopefully independent. But I can tell you the entire problem is one of resources. If we had schools and we had daycares and we had therapists that were able to be there all day long and work with them all day long, instead of all this other stuff, if they were able to focus on that, they would be able to assimilate into life much, much better. But unfortunately, the states and cities, they don't have enough money. They couldn't tax enough money out of their citizen base to be able to afford the kind of treatment that these kids really, really need. They could not afford, I mean, I'm telling you right now, they could do a 90% tax and they could not afford the number of occupational therapists, eating therapists, speech therapists, sensory therapists, play therapists. They could not do it. There wouldn't be enough. And I'm in Pennsylvania. There's 50 other states. And then you look around the world, right? Now, there's a lot of anecdotal evidence out there of what causes these symptoms. I'm not here to tell you what it causes it. I'm not a doctor. I'm a parent. And I love my kid. But I am economically literate. And so I sat down with the panel that was screening my son. And I talked to them and I asked them, I said, where do you get your funding from? Where do you get your funding from? And they're like, well, some of the money comes from the state. Some of the money comes from the local municipalities. And some of the money comes from the federal government. I said, stop right there. I said, what is the ratio? And they couldn't answer. They gave me a phone number of someone who I'm going to follow up with. Because I'm going to make this a big part of what I do going forward. I mean, if you all have been following me, you've seen that I've been putting autism little by little into my live streams. I'm not competent enough yet to talk at the deeper levels. I'm just competent enough to talk as a parent experiencing it and as someone who is remarkably disabused of economic illiteracy, coming from a past of right-wing nonsense. And this combination of understanding economics and dealing with a child that has autism, I'm going to make sure that I don't let my knowledge and my experience go to waste. I've talked to people about standing up for what they believe in. And I've talked to people about learning economics for a host of reasons. But here's something that I can assure you. No matter whether you come up with Medicare for all or whether you come up with something else, there will not be enough funding for autism help. They're going to be understaffed. They're going to not have enough money to do it all day. And these kids are never going to be able to achieve what they could achieve. And that is a shame. It's completely and utterly avoidable. It's completely avoidable. It breaks my heart when I talk to people about economics and they give me a bunch of shit about inflation and stupid things that they don't know what the hell they're saying. And I'm sitting there looking at my son and I'm thinking to myself, that guy over there, he was telling me that my economics is wrong. He doesn't understand. Son, he's to blame. He's the reason you don't have a therapist every day. And I said, wait a minute, Steve, don't get too angry. Don't let yourself get obsessed with hate. Don't let yourself get so obsessed with hate that you lose the ability to deliver your message. But I'm angry. I'm angry because economic illiteracy is going to block many of your children, many of your grandchildren, maybe your nieces, nephews, friends, whatever. Their kids are not going to get the treatment that they need. They're not. They're not going to get the treatment they need because they physically don't have the resources for it because of lies, myths, and legends. Lies, myths, and legends are causing real-world damage, hell on earth for these children and the families that have to go through it. Folks, I'm going to walk you through a morning and a night with me and my son for a minute. And I want you to understand that there's a lot of hours in the day that I'm not actually covering because I'm at work. So I wake up in the morning super, super early so I can get ready for work. Because as soon as my son wakes up, it's got to be all about him. So I go up to his bedroom when he wakes up. And I play a game with him for a good 10 or 15 minutes. And that game is not just a game. To him, he thinks it's fun. And that's good. But what I'm doing is I'm getting him to engage with me. He's got to focus on me. And I take his little security blanket and I snatch it from him jokingly. I go, no! And he starts jumping around in his bed all excited because he knows I'm getting ready to throw it over the crib into him and it lands on his head. Then he grabs it again, throws it down and puts it over to the edge of the crib so I'll take it out again and do it again. And I say, ready, set, and he waits and waits and waits and waits and waits. And then he starts getting distracted if I take too long. But I got to hold that as long as I can so that I can continue to expand his ability to stay focused and connected. After I'm done that, then I have to take him downstairs after I get him dressed and brush him. I got to brush him. I do the brushing in the morning before I get him dressed. Doesn't take real long, but I do that. And then I read him a book. Now, you should read to your kids anyway, right? But it's especially important to read to these children. It helps with them engaging. It helps with them tying words to pictures and things. There's so many things about the engagement process of reading to your kid when they have autism. So I read him a book, and he likes this book about the 5 pumpkins. This is hard for me. I'm trying though, okay? So we count the pumpkins each time. He points to pumpkin 1. I go 1, you get 2, 3, 4, 5. And he knows, he gets it down, he knows, and he assimilates it. We put the book away, we go downstairs. I get him in a high chair. I feed him his cereal. Sometimes because he doesn't really want to eat, because it's not fun for him. He doesn't enjoy eating. It's almost painful for him because his mouth doesn't enjoy the process of eating. So I have to put Sesame Street or something like that on to help distract him so he'll eat food, because the process of eating is almost like pain to him. The senses, he's not quite sure what to do with it. He doesn't chew. So he swallows it, just swallows it straight down. So all of his food at his age still has to be puree. So after I feed him his cereal, he still can't drink from a sippy cup. So I make him his morning bottle of milk. My boy gets on my lap and I hold him and I give him his bottle of milk. Then I got to let him run around for a minute because he's probably going to poop. So I let him get his poop out, change his diaper, get him in the car, and I hold his hand. I reach back like this and I hold his hand the whole way to the daycare, because he enjoys holding my hand. After I do that, I take him into the daycare. I give them all his foods and things that he has for the day. And then I watch him go into the daycare. And I don't see him again for another 8 to 10 hours. They do brush him there. We've taught them how to brush him. They do play with him. They do read to him. They do interact with him. And they send us videos of him having a great time, which I posted on my wall today. And so the average person that sees these videos of him playing around and enjoying other children, they don't have any idea that for him, interacting with other kids isn't fun. It's scary to him. It violates something about what he's okay, his comfort zone. It violates that. But I get to watch the progress, and it's good. It is good, because we are really heavily invested in making sure that he gets as much as we can possibly give him. So he comes home at night. And usually I let Melanie pick him up from the daycare, because I'm a senior program manager by day. So it's not as easy for me to just jump off work and get on home. But I get home, I wash my hands, I get changed, and then I feed him his dinner. And it's a stage 3 dinner. I have to mush it with a masher to make sure that the texture is knocked out of it. He can't handle the carrots. The carrots will make him throw up everywhere. He can't handle any potatoes. There's little chunks of potato. It'll make him gag because he can't chew. He pulls his tongue way back and then he mushes it or swallows it whole. And so if he gets a big chunk, he'll throw up everywhere or gag and choke. No ability to push food left or right. Then, after I feed him that, I wash my hands, I wash his face, and then I get down on the floor with him, and I play with his trucks with him. And I make sure I do the ready, set, go, and I've shown videos of this as well. People thought it was probably just cute, but the reality is that I'm able to keep his attention in a game probably for a good hour now, which is amazing. He will spin. He will do a host of things. I have to intercept him in the middle of what he's doing and break him of the pattern so that he rewires and learns new patterns and can accept stimulus that comes from other areas that he's not in control of. After I've done that, Melanie takes him up for his bath, where she gets to spend some time with him. And she brushes him and she bathes him and she gets him used to different textures and different feelings and different games. She puts the lotion on, she does the brushing, she does all the other stuff, reads a book to him, brings him back downstairs, where I then in turn feed him again this special thing of oatmeal and prunes because he has issues with his bowels. So, after all this is said and done, then I give him another bottle. Then we have to go through the teeth brushing exercise, which is traumatic for him. Doesn't like things in his mouth. We have to brush the sides of his mouth. We have to brush the roof of his mouth. We have to brush his teeth, and we go all around trying to get him to push away with his tongue, to get him used to moving things with his tongue. Then, after that, we take him back upstairs, and then we read him another book or two. Then he goes to bed, and then I'm back to real progressives talking about autism. Talking about economics. That pattern that I talked about in the morning and the evening, that needs to go on at daycare too for a kid like that. Because here's something I didn't know. I will give the state of Pennsylvania incredible props for one thing. They have really free care. I mean, they're really, really helpful. They provide chip access for kids that are in this. They have all kinds of different folks that come out and help. People come to the house. People go to the daycare, etc. We go to York Hospital for the feeding clinic. We go all over the place, right? And they do the best they can. But once they hit 3 years old, they stop trying to change the wiring. They stop trying to change the wiring. And they instead try to teach them how to survive with what they got. Now that is partially because of the brain development, but it's also partially because of funding. Instead of being able to really, really focus on them non-stop until they don't need it anymore, they have to really, really watch their resources. And all they're doing is just teaching them how to get by in school now. No longer are they really focused on trying to alter that. So it's up to parents to get together in communities of other autistic kids and work and share stories with each other, which is fine at some level, but it's not really fine in terms of the overall. They need real serious work to rewire, to change the patterns, to socialize, to get rid of the fears and the discomfort of social interaction. And so that only can come when a community understands economics, when a local community understands, and a state community understands, and a federal community understands the role of the federal government in spending to serve these children. I'm telling you right now, I am personally committed to reaching out to the different groups for autism and trying to educate them about modern monetary theory. I'm going to start working with real groups that have some clout. I'm going to reach out to them, and I'm going to keep reaching out to them. I'm going to tell them that use your clout to talk to your congressmen and women. Use your clout to talk to your governor, to put pressure on the feds, to spend money on autism, to really invest in treatment. If you don't invest in early treatment, it's very, very hard for them to lead a full and independent life. A friend of mine has two 300-pound, 6'4", severely autistic twins. They are big enough that his very, very small wife could accidentally be crushed by them when they are not right. When things are just not right, they can't handle it. They've done the best they can. We need help. And it's not charity. Charity won't get it done. See, this is the thing. This is the wake-up point. Charity cannot solve this problem. It's bigger than charity. It's bigger than your local church. It's bigger than your local government. It requires access to real resources, to put an emphasis on training enough therapists and have enough physical resources for them to be effective, to be with those kids all day long. Even if it takes creating centers for autism, real centers like childcare centers all over America. I'm loath to say this, but that is an idea that the right person that's willing to invest in it will get rich someday, because there's such a huge need. Such a huge need. And for me, you know, my son's almost, he's 2.5 years old now. We're going to hit that 3-year mark. And so you can imagine what life is like at the Grumbine household. We know we're staring down the barrel of 6 months, where we're really concerned about our funding getting cut off, and we're very concerned about the treatment that they would prescribe for a kid that's under 3 to end. We're petrified of not being able to give him enough to lead that life. So when you guys are wondering why Steve talks about MMT, you guys are wondering why I'm angry as hell at groups like the Green Party,